One of the reasons that I got involved in pushing for these incentives was because I've had 3 movies made of my books, and at each point in the making of those movies, I went to the people who were making them out in Los Angeles and said, look, is it possible that we could shoot in Michigan? I live in Michigan. Some of the books and stories that I've written have sort of been inspired by things that have happened in Michigan. And initially they said, well, okay, what's the incentive? And at first I didn't even know what that meant. And I said, well, what do you mean what's the incentive? Well, most states have some kind of tax incentive, or Canada has a tax incentive. What's Michigan's incentive? I went back and looked, and it was minuscule. And as soon as I told them what it was, they said, nope, we're going to shoot in Connecticut. No, we're going to shoot in Vancouver. No, we're going to shoot in some other place that gives us more money back. And so I personally have watched 3 of my projects that I would have loved to have seen shot in my backyard, where I wrote them, where I intended them to be filmed, shot someplace else. So it was pretty clear to me that you could not get into this game unless there was some type of incentive package. From the moment that the tax incentives passed, in fact, even before they passed, I started to hear about, hey, I hear Michigan's putting through a tax incentive. What can you tell us about it? Suddenly, I became one of the most popular people in the state from the movie business perspective, because people knew how to find me. Writers knew how to find me, screenwriters knew how to find me, directors knew how to find me, studios knew how to find me. And so I seemed to become everybody's sort of first call. Hey, we hear they have those incentives. We're looking to make a movie. Who do we talk to? Before we even had a whole lot of things in place, I was getting calls like that. And ever since it's been passed, it's just been a flood, to the point that, I say, look, if they want, just tell them to go to the film office. I don't work there. There are places that can answer these questions. So, to put it very simply, in basic terms, it's night and day. When we spoke before the legislature, myself and Mike Binder, who were sort of from the industry side, kind of proponents of this thing, we were very clear that we said this is not a game in which coming in 6th will give you a 6th of the business, or coming in 4th will give you a 4th of the business. Unless you are at the forefront of the incentive packages, you might as well not be playing the game. I thought the legislators were very wise in recognizing that Michigan needed to overcome certain things, geography, weather, and things like that, to try to make sure that it was a wow package. And what they passed was indeed a wow package. From the moment they passed it to a year later, the amount of business that has come into this state as a result of these incentives is hundreds-fold in terms of dollars. Because I believe we had somewhere near about $1 million worth of work in the previous year, and potentially hundreds of millions of dollars worth of work in the years at least immediately following. You're going to have to show me some other business that goes like that suddenly you pass one particular law and that much business comes into your state. And may I add that that business spends its money up front and asks for its money back much later. This is something that I think some of the critics of this don't understand. When a movie comes into town, they start spending money immediately. From the minute they come in and take a scouting trip, they're staying at hotels, they're buying food at restaurants, they're talking to people, they're hiring. They haven't asked for anything back. They set up shop, they set up offices, they rent offices, spending money, don't get any of it back. They start hiring people, whether it be UPMs or actors or cameramen or whatever, spending money, don't get any of it back. They start the actual production of the film. They rent out everything from somebody's house to a bar to a street. They employ extras, they employ local people, spending money, none of it going back yet. It's not until after the film is finished, after the paperwork is finished, after the documents are filed, and after it finally goes into the state treasury system, and then sometimes not even until the following year after that, that a check is ever written to go back to this business that has already spent, in some cases, tens of millions of dollars in our backyard. Most businesses, if you do an incentive type of package, you provide the incentives up front, and maybe you're giving them money to get started or seeding money or things like that, and the money all goes out early before you start to see any of the return. So sometimes people who are critical of, well, gee, look how much money we're giving back to these things, don't understand that in the famous old adage, time is money, the money is spent where we need it right now, here in our backyard, encouraging infrastructure, encouraging jobs, spending on every kind of service, from food to rent a car to hotel and everything. And the check that you write for it, in some cases, doesn't come until a year after they're already gone. There, again, are not very many businesses that follow that model. So for all those particular reasons, and loving my state the way that I do, and the way that Mike does, and other people who recognize that while we love the auto industry, we have learned the hard way that if you just want to live off of one industry, you're going to die with that one industry too, or you're going to get sick with that one industry too. And a healthy economy is one that is varied. And here was a chance to invite business into a state that hadn't done it before, and by virtue of being hardworking, offering a good incentive, and showing them, which we never had a chance to do before, showing them that we're capable of being a great backdrop for movies, capable of being a great labor source for movies, capable of being a great creative source for movies, something they never would have bothered to come look at before. They weren't walking through Michigan. It's like I told you at the beginning. I said, come shoot in Michigan. What's the incentive? Forget it. We're not coming there. It wasn't, well, we'll come shop around, we'll look. No, you don't even get a glance. And suddenly, not only are we getting a glance, they're coming and they're liking what they're seeing, and we have a chance to seed a new industry in the state of Michigan. That to me is very valuable. And even if it costs money at the beginning, I do believe in the long run, it will create jobs, infrastructure, new citizens, new taxpayers, the kinds of things that are not easily measured in typical accounting. Okay, well, this comes in off this tax thing and this comes in. You're talking about growing a place to live, growing a place to work, creating people who want to be here, who want to buy houses, who want to buy cars, who want to live around. That doesn't show up in all the actuarial tables. But believe me, I've seen how it works. Mike Binder and I tease about this all the time. If it was a bad model, if it was such a terrible model, as sometimes critics would like to say it, how come states are crawling over each other trying to get it? How come Canada is red-faced at losing the business that it's lost to the United States and places like Michigan once we wisened up and figured out what was going on? Most people don't tend to fight over bad business propositions. They say, you can have it. If it's a good business proposition, they fight over it, and this is a good one.